Good morning, beautiful traders. How you guys doing? All right, it's a beautiful Thursday and I am just coming from my oncology class right now. I don't even have to. So I was going through the news and all of that. I was recording also here and just looking at the news, everything just seems so confused, right? There is a tariff war that is going on, and trying to trade in these type of market conditions is more like trying to shoot yourself in the foot, right? So I normally just rather save my capital from when we have better trades, right? But nevertheless, let me just show you guys what I am looking at on the NASDAQ. So you can see we have this low here, we have a low here, and the NASDAQ is trying to form a little low again at this particular point that we have there, right? So yesterday I did hesitate to go into this trade, but it was a really good one as soon as it came into this point of interest, right? Now the fun fact is I did send this in the free signal group and I was highlighting this level right in this area here, and I said that my setup still stands. Remember, I said that the setup still stands in my opinion, so we're looking forward to buying NASDAQ as soon as it comes into this area. But yesterday I did miss this trade, so I'm eventually looking for it to actually go and close this gap that it has here. So for today, the only thing that I actually look forward to is the market coming back down to this level. If it does, or somewhere close by, somewhere here, then I'm going to give the signal in the inner circle, and then probably we will hold that trade. It will be a really lovely trade for us for the week, because right now the inner circle is not happy. The inner circle is not happy with me. You can clearly see that we only had, this trade that we're holding from Friday, which was 800 pips, and then we added positions to that, but then these added positions didn't go so well. That is what I was explaining, earlier when I said it hit our stop loss. So we want to actually redeem this, but it wasn't a bad trade because we just added positions, and then those that weren't in the trade, they're the ones that took a really big loss. But for us, we were getting, we were saved by this first entry that we had. You see this first entry, we just added positions to that, and then we had our stop loss right below the gap. As soon as the market hit the gap, it took us out with our added position and the main trade that we actually had. But that's majorly what I am looking at actually in this crazy market. I'm just waiting for a retracement. If we have one, you're absolutely going to see those trades running. I really hope we do have a trade for this week. I am getting frustrated now. I want to sit on the charts and analyze and be in a trade. That thrill when you're in a trade. But if you don't have a setup, you always don't have to force the trades, right? That's what it is. I'll see you guys when I actually have running trades, probably in a few hours. Let's go. Well, that didn't quite happen now, did it? Those eagerly awaited trades never came to pass. And why, you may ask? Just take a look around. We're enjoying the Easter holiday. And what's funny is when I was recording that clip on Thursday, I totally forgot that the next day was going to be Good Friday and the banks were going to be closed, meaning we were not going to be trading for that day. So we had no market action for those days, and of course Saturday followed the exact same suit, and here we are on a Sunday still enjoying the peace and quiet, right? But wait, the surprises don't end there, right? It turns out that tomorrow is actually going to be a holiday for the markets. Can you believe that, right? 4 whole days of no trading. It just feels like a little random, right? Doesn't it? Like, the market just decided to take an extra long weekend just because it could, right? But honestly, I'm not complaining. I am not complaining. These little breaks are quite needed, and I hope you all had a fantastic Easter weekend filled with whatever brings you joy, right? Mine was pretty great, pretty blessed for sure, even if we did not really have those thrilling entries and exits that we usually chase. So no trades to report for this particular week, no dramatic stories of the wins or the exits or the losses for this week, right? But hey, that just means we are coming into a fresh week with rested minds and eager eyes, right? I'm looking at the chart right now. So enough of the holiday. Let's dive right into what we can do. That's our weekly market analysis, and obviously we are going to approach it the exact same way that we always do. But if you're new, find the channel for the first time, welcome. We trade the NASDAQ over here. If you're returning, welcome back. You already know what's up. Don't forget to hit that like button, turn your post notifications, and subscribe to the channel. Now over onto my charts. I'm actually still looking looking at the NASDAQ that I was talking about, you know, pretty much the exact same thing that we had last week, because the market did not actually move a lot for, you know, this week. We do have a little trend line like this, and the one I was talking about to the upside, the NASDAQ is still pretty much sitting at my point of interest. But one interesting thing that I like here is we had a gap on one random day like that. We had a gap on this particular day, and if you notice, I don't know if it's my broker, but if we mark up from this little candlestick to this one, you can clearly see that that gap has not yet been fully closed, right? So I would really want to see a NASDAQ coming up to close this gap, and best believing that, you know, because of the tariffs and stuff like that, right, we don't really want to wake up with this market with a random gap like somewhere here, or, you know, somewhere even lower than that. So even though the banks are closed, right, there's a lot of market activity still happening behind the scenes, right? So it's going to reflect on these charts, right? So if the market does open with the gap, then we're going to be looking at a whole different analysis, right? But if it does open like this, probably in these areas, then we're looking forward to actually still stay with our buy, actually still stay with the buyers that we had on the NASDAQ, meaning that we're actually looking for entries in this area right over here, because that's a point of interest. You can clearly see that this was a resistance area, right, broken out of and has been turned into a support. If we're coming from the bulls at the bottom, the main trend, not looking at this, you know, sub trend that we had for the last couple of weeks on the NASDAQ, right? I was looking at this momentum candle and the market dropped into a good point of interest. I want to see it respecting this trend line and this support area. So that simply means that I want to see a bounce off of this level, good price action, and a push towards the upside. But when I will really have confidence that these buyers have stepped into this market is when they actually break out of this particular area. Then it is just to wait for a retest of this trend line and then a push to the upside. But the analysis for the NASDAQ looks pretty much the same as we had last week. Let me just see before I go back to US30 or gold if we have anything interesting on the smaller time frames. Now on the smaller time frames, yes, the exact same thing that we're going to be looking at. Remember, the gap that I'm actually targeting is this one, and obviously we're not just going to get a really random entry at this point. Right now the market is not at any specific point of interest. I say that we always want to buy or sell when the market is at a specific point of interest. Right now it is just at a random point on the 30 minutes time frame, right? So we want to see the market coming to a good point of interest that'll be at this trend line maybe, or breaking out of this area. Then we can see a continued push to the upside. But that's it. Let's go over and look at gold. Gold makes a lot more sense for this particular week. I was eyeing this gold trade, but you know what, I'm actually just so nervous to go in because of the random points that it just reverses off of, right? So it had dropped to around about this level and then decided to just push right back up. Now if you notice, the point where it decided to push from is not any significant point, right? It is just in the middle of this candlestick, so I can't really take that. But then that's on the daily time frame. Let's see what it was looking like on the 4-hour time frame, right? Exactly the same thing, right? On the 4-hour time frame, this is not really any point of interest, but what I actually like on gold is it has created a support area right at this level here, right? You can clearly see that the market dropped with so much momentum. This candlestick here was a bearish candlestick. The market dropped with so much pressure around about this point, and the buyers literally pushed the market right back up and created this week right here. So this is a good support area that we have here. So if the market ever comes back to this point, then we want to actually look to buy gold. And all of these levels that we're having at the bottom here, they're actually not valid anymore because the market is really high up there, right? Look at gold. Just look at that movement. You know, everyone is just flocking to buy gold because they feel like that's the safest asset right now, especially with the stock market going crazy. You know, people are not like confident in the stock market, so they go and buy the asset that they deem safer, right? Which is gold. Look at it, so expensive right now, over $3,300 per ounce on gold, right? So that's it. That is what I will be looking at. I'm actually targeting this point of interest and this one, right? If it breaks here, then the second attempt I'll have is probably at this level. If it now breaks this, then I really want to step back and reanalyze everything and look at the candlesticks that will be forming, right? But as for gold, that's exactly what I'm looking at. I want to look for buying positions in this area or in this area, and obviously if it comes and breaks out of the highs, then I will buy the highs and ride it up to the top. Obviously, let's check out what US30 is saying US30 just like the NASDAQ, looking the exact same way, and we obviously going to approach it also the exact same way that we're looking at on the NASDAQ right now. US30, you can clearly see that it bounced off this certain level on the daily time frame. So this is actually the weekly time frame. So on the weekly time frame, it gave us such a big bullish candlestick, showing that the buyers just stepped into the market. This is when we had the 90-day pause on the tariffs, when the market just pushed up like this. So currently it's kind of like retracing probably to half this candlestick, then it'll just push up to the top. But just like the NASDAQ, that's exactly what we're looking at. It is sitting also at a great support area. You can see that this resistance area was broken out of, turned into support. That's exactly where the market is resting. Also, don't forget this week that it formed, right? We should accommodate that week because it might want to retest it. So if this candlestick, well, it's not actually going to come out bullish anymore because the market has already closed, right? So depending with how the market opened, wow, this could have been a really good trade if this candlestick was a bullish candlestick. Imagine this could be a really nice morning evening star setup. I don't know, I always confuse those two, but then that particular setup would have pushed the market to the upside, right? But nevertheless, this is what we're looking at on US30. We can see we have a little trend line, a little something. If the market actually just pushes up, comes and breaks out of this trend line, that would be something interesting, honestly, because if you look at it on the 1 hour time frame, that would be a good trade. We break out of this level, we push up, we break out of this trend line. I am riding it up to the top right over there. But then obviously if that does not happen, then we're waiting for it to come to this area here, which is a good bank zone also because of this rejection. Then we ride it up to the top. That's it for our weekly analysis. Nothing looks complicated. We just want to obliterate this market and make some money. But that's about it. If you found the breakdown quite helpful, don't forget to hit that like button, turn your post notifications, and subscribe to the channel. You feel me? With that, it's been Tino, and I'll see you in the next lit video. Love you guys.